came here, stayed for a minute, for a little while. She called the Uber. Uber was taking too long to really get here. So a gentleman here at the club offered to give her a ride to where she needed to go. Felicia has not been seen since.
And it's been 2 weeks to just come forward and just say something.
I can't put it into words.
Human remains found in Montgomery County earlier this month have been confirmed as those of Felicia Johnson.
She's the 24-year-old San Diego woman who disappeared while visiting Houston in April of last year, and investigators are still looking for the man charged in her death.
We want the suspect to know that the no snitch policy will never protect you in our community, that we're coming for you, we're looking for you, and we'll leave no stone unturned in trying to find out your whereabouts.
On April 16, 2022, Felicia Johnson and Chukwuebuka Nwobodo agreed over Snapchat that he would pay her $500 to meet up with her. Chukwuebuka ordered Felicia an Uber from the hotel to meet up with him at his place. Felicia never returned back to her hotel, and she was never seen again. What did Chukwuebuka Nwobodo do to Felicia Johnson? And how were the cops able to trace Felicia's murder to Chukwuebuka? Let's explore that in the story of Felicia Williams, the girl killed after being promised $500.
Very, very difficult for me as a father, know that I'm not going to see my daughter ever again and ever talk to her again.
Felicia's story will be taking us to Houston, Texas, where she vanished. Houston is a big, bustling city filled with lots of people and tons of significance. Houston got its name from a historic man named General Sam Houston, a man who is known as a hero in the city's history books. Why? Because he led Texas to win its freedom from Mexico in a huge battle called the Battle of San Juancito. After that, he became the very first president of the Republic of Texas. So you can say Houston is not just a big city. It's got a big history too. Living in Houston is a real experience. It's a bustling city, full of life and energy. People from all over come to Houston, making it a super diverse place. There's so much to do, from amazing food spots with all kinds of flavors like seafood, Mexican, and good old Texan barbecue, to fun places like parks, museums, and cool neighborhoods to explore. Add that to the mostly warm and sunny weather and you've got a city perfect for outdoor activities. Houston's also big on sports. There are teams like the Houston Rockets for basketball, the Texans for football, and the Astros for baseball. Fans here are passionate about their teams, making game days quite the experience. Plus, there's always something going on, which is why so many people flock to Houston all year around. One of those people being Felicia Johnson. Felicia Marie Johnson was a 24-year-old young woman who hailed from San Diego, California. While details about where she went to high school, or whether or not she attended college, or was planning to attend at some point, aren't specific. Those who knew her described Felicia as a vibrant person who cherished life, adored her family, and aspired for more out of life.
Young, bright-eyed, and a beautiful smile. It's these images that have captured the hearts of many in the continued search for Felicia Johnson.
Her family members shared that Felicia was a stunning and bright young woman, sharp-minded and full of joy. She brought life to gatherings and was the heart of the party. She was also known to have witty humor and loved to make people laugh until the bowled over. She was a warm and sunny person who was full of positive energy.
She's great. She's incredibly funny. She's witty, she's smart.
On April 10th, 2022, Felicia celebrated her birthday with her friends and family. She had already planned a trip to Houston ahead of her birthday celebrations, though it is unclear whether she planned to visit Houston for more birthday celebrations or whether she was planning to stay for long. But considering she had applied for a job in Houston, it's safe to say she was looking to stay for at least a while. But she also spoke to a friend who was one of the few people to see her just before she left San Diego, and she told that friend she was just going to celebrate her birthday.
I just seen her on the 8th. She told me that she was going to Houston for her birthday. I did her nails.
On April 13th, 2022, 5 days after celebrating her 24th birthday with family in San Diego, Felicia traveled to Houston from California. Once in Houston, on April 16th, she visited an adult nightclub named CoverGirls Adult Entertainment Nightclub to apply for a job, but unfortunately, she was turned away. Before she went to the adult nightclub, however, Felicia Felicia had been in contact with a man named Chukwuebuka Nwobodo through an online escort service. Chukwuebuka responded to an ad Felicia had posted for that evening, and after she was rejected from CoverGirl nightclub around 2:56 a.m., it is reported that Felicia entered an Uber arranged by Chukwuebuka Nwobodo. The Uber driver took her to Chukwuebuka's previous address on the 3200 block of Windchase Boulevard, after which he picked her up and transported her to his apartment on South Richmond Avenue. Felicia Johnson then vanished off the face of the earth.
She came here, stayed for a minute, for a little while. She called the Uber. Uber was taking too long to really get here. So a gentleman here at the club offered to give her a ride to where she needed to go. Felicia has not been seen since.
The following day, when Felicia didn't reach out to her family, they grew concerned and contacted the police to report her as missing. However, the Houston Law Enforcement Department was dragging its feet to investigate Felicia's disappearance, so her family hired a private investigator to help speed up the process. The PI immediately started looking into Felicia's disappearance. During the investigation, Felicia's cell phone was traced to Bear Creek's Pioneers Park, a few miles away from the nightclub. It was found with her discarded purse, but unfortunately for Felicia's family, that was not all that was found.
That cell phone was found discarded on the side of the road at Bear Creek Park. On the side of the road right there at Bear Creek Park, and the phone was covered in blood.
The news of the discovery of some of Felicia's belongings was heartbreaking for her family members, especially her dad, who, fearing the worst, flew from California to Houston to join the extensive search efforts already underway.
We believe that she is the victim of foul play. We believe that she's being held against her will. We believe that she, hopefully by God's grace, is still alive.
Although the discovery of her cell phone covered in the red bodily fluid was very discouraging, it did not deter Felicia's father from holding out hope. He was able to gather a few people, including local activists, to not only help in the search of whoever had Felicia, but also help raise awareness of Felicia's disappearance with the hopes that that would motivate HPD to take the investigation seriously.
But we want whoever's holding her to know that we will not rest, we will not stop looking, we will continue looking for her, and we will continue hunting you. No matter what takes place, we will continue hunting you, and we will not forget Felicia. And law enforcement needs to do a better job of taking this case a lot more serious than they have. Once we found that cell phone covered in blood, law enforcement still took their time getting involved with the family.
And it worked. HPD decided to take the investigation seriously, as they should have done in the beginning. They retrieved Felicia's phone from her family to do some forensics on it. They also visited the adult nightclub her family said she was last seen at, but according to the nightclub, that might not be true.
First tonight, the mystery is deepening in the search for Felicia Johnson.
Tomorrow will mark 2 weeks since her father says the 24-year-old disappeared after applying for a job at a Northwest Houston adult entertainment club. But the club's attorney tells us tonight they have no record of her application.
According to CoverGirl nightclub, Felicia never applied for a job at their establishment. The staff of the nightclub also denied seeing Felicia at all that night, but claimed many people go in and out of the club every hour, and they might have just missed her.
They don't know if they spoke to Felicia Johnson or not. Multiple people come in that club all the time. Could one of them have been Miss Johnson? Yes.
The attorney for the nightclub insists that if Felicia had come in to apply for a job at the nightclub, there would be a paperwork trail, but since there wasn't, it reduces the likelihood that Felicia was actually there.
There is paperwork for her to fill out, and what we call a dancer packet. That's full of information. They sign it, they execute it, and they can go to work. But that did not happen with Miss Johnson. She did not fill out any paperwork.
At this point, HPD had already acquired the surveillance footage of the night Felicia disappeared, but to her father's frustration, the investigators were not willing to share the details of the footage with him and his team.
My plea today is to the city of Houston and all its governor entities would hear my heart and my plea, and to not hold back any efforts or information that could help bring Felicia home.
At this point, the working theory was that Felicia had gone to the club to look for a job, had been rejected, and decided to go back home. She ordered an Uber, but the Uber was taking so long to get to her when a car pulled over and asked if she needed a ride. Her family believed Felicia entered that car, only to never be seen again. That's why Felicia's father wanted to see the security footage, because he believed it might help identify the car Felicia entered. But unfortunately, Unfortunately, Felicia's family soon found out the nightclub did not have any security cameras outside of their establishment, which means the footage will not contain any detail about the car Felicia could have entered into that night, information that took the investigation right back to the beginning.
California man says he'll stay in Houston as long as it takes to find his missing daughter. 24-year-old Felicia Johnson disappeared 10 days ago.
But all hope was not lost yet, at least none from her father.
I'm her father, I'm the face of her, and I'm her representative in her fight to come home.
He kept on searching for his daughter, even going as far as placing a reward of $5,000 for anyone who had any knowledge or information on Felicia's disappearance.
We also know that there is a $5,000 reward being offered from Crime Stoppers.
When that didn't work, Felicia's father increased the reward, desperate for any information that may lead to the rescuing of his daughter.
And her father says a reward may be increased in order to bring in more tips.
But unfortunately, the reward did not help get any information, and Felicia's family as well as the Houston Police Department were getting very frustrated at how slow the investigation was going. They had hit a dead end with nowhere else to look. At this point, it was clear it was time to bring in the big guns. The HPD asked for assistance from the FBI on the investigation into Felicia's disappearance, and they got it. After the FBI joined the search for Felicia, things seemed to move a lot faster than it did before. The FBI were able to discover quite a few things. First, they discovered that Felicia and Chukwuebuka were communicating on Snapchat, and her messages showed they agreed to meet for $500. His bank records showed that he withdrew exactly that amount of money from his Wells Fargo account on April 16th.
According to Uber records, investigators subpoenaed about a week later, they say the suspect, Chukwuebuka Nwobodo, was the one who requested the ride for Johnson from her hotel to his apartment.
They found out that Felicia had not entered a stranger's car after she left the nightclub, but had actually entered an Uber that had been ordered for her. That Uber, they discovered, was ordered for her by a man named Chukwuebuka Nwobodo. They also found out that Chukwuebuka Nwobodo had arranged the Uber ride for her. They then started tracking her movements from the moment she entered the Uber, quickly discovering that she had been taken to an address on the 3200 block of Windchase Boulevard, after which they believed he picked her up and transported her to his apartment on South Richmond Avenue. An hour later, surveillance footage showed his car leaving the complex, but that wasn't all. There were more gruesome discoveries to be made.
Police say records show that on the 16th and 17th, he bought a number of supplies from Walmart and Home Depot.
They also discovered that on April 16th and 17th, surveillance cameras captured Chukwuebuka with a bandaged hand at Walmart. During these visits, he bought several items like trash bags, a flashlight, gloves, saws, and towels. Additionally, he purchased a mechanical saw from both Walmart and Home Depot. Over the next few days, HPD and FBI would make a series of gruesome discoveries that would shake the city of Houston, Texas, to its very core.
Uncovered some new information in the murder of Felicia Johnson.
Nearly 2 months since she was last seen, her remains still have not been found. Now new court documents show how investigators linked a suspect to her murder.
Once they landed on Chukwuebuka Nwobodo as a possible suspect in the disappearance of Felicia Johnson, it was a lot easier to get more information on what actually happened to Felicia Johnson on the night of April 16th. They were able to figure out a possible timeline of events. They found receipts that showed Chukwuebuka took out additional money from his account to buy more supplies like towels and trash bags. Investigators say on April 20th, Chukwuebuka's Gmail account made bizarre internet searches, like whether or not bleach or vinegar could destroy DNA evidence.
It's the outcome that no one wanted, and the gruesome details in the new charging documents accuse the suspect of doing extensive research to try and cover up her murder.
Several days later, on April 27th, Chukwuebuka's Gmail account made additional searches. According to HPD, he searched for how to delete your phone history completely. But that wasn't all. The next day, investigators said he searched for multiple ways to get away with murder, and fearing he may be eventually caught. Despite trying very hard to cover his tracks, investigators say Chukwuebuka wanted a contingency plan. They said he also looked up the 15 cheapest places to live in the world for just $1,000 investigators and, on May 3rd, Chukwuebuka's Google account, again, searched if the authorities could check the phone records of a missing person, as well as if they could unlock a phone during an investigation. With all the information they had from their investigation so far, the investigators were able to obtain search warrants for Chukwuebuka's car and apartment, and they found a lot more than they bargained for. According to the investigators, they found very strong evidence that Felicia had been in his apartment. They found red bodily fluid all over Felicia, and when they tested it, it turned out to be a positive match for Felicia's DNA. They also found more of her DNA all over his apartment, which gave investigators the idea that there might have been a struggle.
On May 13th, HPD conducted a search warrant where they say they found blood, weapons, receipts, and supplies in the suspect's car.
As the search progressed, they found more evidence in Chukwuebuka's car. They found blood, weapons, receipts, and supplies in his car. With all that they found in his apartment and car, the investigators were pretty positive that he had something to do with Felicia's disappearance. They were also positive that the investigation was no longer on a disappearance, but a homicide. The next step in the investigation was to get a search warrant for Chukwuebuka's cell phone to gain additional information. Officers seized his cell phone and found a photo of a woman's body, and she had been separated into different pieces. They then found 3 additional photos of deceased individuals. It is not clear if investigators believe those photos belong to more of Chukwuebuka's victims, especially because they had found searches on his phone of how to be a serial killer on his phone. The individuals in the photos were also not identified, and no metadata was associated with them. At this point, HPD had enough information to bring Chukwuebuka in for questioning, but he gave them nothing. Now, although the investigators found enough information to charge Chukwuebuka with the murder of Felicia Johnson, unfortunately, without her body, they were not able to charge him with any crime, so they had no choice but to let him go. This was very frustrating for HPD as well as Felicia's family, but without anybody, they had no case. So they doubled their efforts to find Felicia.
We want the suspect to know that the no-snitch policy will never protect you in our community, that we're coming for you, we're looking for you, and we'll leave no stone unturned in trying to find out your whereabouts.
Tonight, a father believes the remains of his daughter, who went missing nearly a year ago, may have been found.
A whole year would go by, and Felicia Johnson's body would not be found. During this time, her father never gave up hope, believing that one day his daughter's body would find its way home, and on February 7th, 2023, it did. On February 7th, a landscape contractor hired by TxDOT found possible human bones in an area of the forest near Flamingo Lakes and Highway 149, Montgomery County. Detectives and investigators quickly responded to the scene to determine whether or not the remains were human. They were able to identify that the remains were in fact human, and samples were sent for DNA and dental record analysis. It would take a while before the remains discovered would be identified.
Those remains in Montgomery County have still not officially been identified. The justice of the peace there told us tonight he was on scene Tuesday when skeletal remains were found, along with a trash bag that's now been collected as evidence.
After a whole year of searching for her and weeks of analysis, the human remains discovered at the Sam Houston National Forest earlier this month have been positively identified as Felicia Johnson, a woman missing for nearly a year. It is with a heavy heart that we report dental records have confirmed that the human remains are that of missing person Felicia Johnson of California. Our hearts go out to the Johnson family and friends, and we hope this brings them some closure.
Crime scene investigators in Montgomery County have confirmed that human remains were found in the Sam Houston National Forest, and it belongs to the missing woman, Felicia Johnson.
Although the news of the discovery of Felicia's body was heartbreaking for her father, as he still held out hope she could be alive, he says he is glad she could be returned to him so he could bury her. The reason why her body has been found is so that she can return to get justice for herself. This is the first piece of the puzzle that is going to allow law enforcement to do their job and bring these guys to justice.
Well, Mia, Felicia's father, Kevin, says the update has given their family a sense of hope in what has been a years-long journey for closure.
It's a blessing. It's a score for us. It's a score for the family. Whenever they release her, then I will be able to have a service for her and pay her the respects that she needs.
After the remains were officially announced to be Felicia's, HPD wasted no time getting a warrant out for Chukwuebuka Nwobodo's arrest. But there was one problem. He was on the run.
And right now we are beginning with breaking news. Houston police say they're looking for the man wanted in the death of a California woman who went missing in Houston. HPD says Chukwuebuka Nwobodo is charged with murder in the disappearance of Felicia Johnson.
HPD were desperate to find Chukwuebuka and even put out a reward for any information leading to his capture. But unfortunately, as at the time of the making of this video, no new information has been released on whether or not he has been found. News of what happened to Felicia shook the city of Houston, especially the young women in the adult entertainment industry, with authorities sending warnings to women in that industry to learn from what happened to Felicia and be extra careful when meeting up with strangers. Anybody can become a victim of a villain. Don't let her death be in vain, and don't think it can't happen to you. It is so dangerous, and every media outlet should be screaming from the rooftops on how dangerous this is, and let stories like this be known. Hey, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you know of other similar cases? Let me know in a comment, and before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. See you next time, and stay safe.